it's a matter of perception, basically, ordinary perception.
Yes, I think you're right there. Anyway, Rafa, let's get on with today's episode. And
Yes.
before I give you the episode title, my name's Carl Baldwin, and my friend across on the continent
Mm-hmm.
is Rafael.
Rafael Ruiz. There you go.
Okay, let's
I got it.
start again, shall we?
No, it's fine.
Oh, you're okay.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
fine.
Yeah, my friend here, Rafa, he is in Transylvania, which is, of
Yes.
course, vampire country,
Mm-hmm.
although he is not a vampire.
No.
That is
But-
correct, isn't it?
Yeah, I have garlic hanging all around.
Of course you do. I've seen it. So Rafa's in Transylvania. I'm in England. We used to be in the same place. Now we're not. But we just want to continue with this podcast. So today's topic is called felt presence.
Ooh, very
Which is-
eerie.
It's a bit woo-woo, I think.
Yeah.
Well, it kind of sounds woo-woo, but it's there's some science there, right? I don't think it explains everything, but
Mhm.
but you know, we need to hang on to something, right?
Yes, I think it's an interesting topic simply because I think since the beginning of times, people have had experiences with
For
this.
sure. That is without doubt true. And oddly, when I was reading about felt presence, because I'm just, if you think I look a bit distracted, it's because I just realised I had the notes up for last week's episode. So anyway, I've now got the correct episode. So yeah, when I was reading about this, I read about people reporting this phenomena where it's where people wake up, but they're still in the mode where their brain has shut off their physical
Uh-huh.
motor movements, you know, because that's why when we have a dream where we're running, we don't end up on the floor because your brain knows that
Mhm.
you're dreaming and it says, note to self, don't actually run while you're in bed, right? So,
Yes.
so there's this, I forget the name of it now. What's it called? Where, sleep paralysis. That's
Yes, sleep paralysis, or in Mexico, there's a funny way to call it, like a dead person, sat over you, or lay down over you.
Well,
So
that,
you're like
yeah,
stiff and
stiff.
yeah.
And that is what occurred to me about historical or in old texts where you read about hauntings and
Mhm.
this kind of thing, where it is quite common to read about somebody waking in bed and there's some kind of, they feel there's a demon sat on them.
Yeah.
But in fact, one of the variations of felt presence is that people, and by the way, this is also offered as a partial factor in abduction, alien abduction
Mhm.
recollections, is that people wake, or shall we say their eyes open, but they're still in sleep paralysis. They can't move and they feel as if there's a heavy weight on their chest, which is
Yeah.
all to do with the sleep paralysis.
Mhm.
Basically, you haven't fully woken up yet. And
Yeah.
and in that state, you can actually imagine that there are people around you and in the space. And
Yeah, but this doesn't happen all the time just by being in this state between sleep and awake
no,
or in bed. It could
No.
happen that you feel like there is really somebody there near you,
yeah,
or sometimes you feel like somebody's or watching at you or walking behind you.
yeah,
Like there's something.
something.
And yeah,
Well, there was a very interesting, I've got it here in the notes, if I can just find it. There was a very interesting thing said by some brainiac when I find out, where it is, and he was. Oh yeah, this is a guy called Anderson-Day,
Yeah.
and he um, he's an associate professor of psychology at Durham University in the UK, and he's the author of a new book called Presence: The Strange Science and True Stories of the Unseen Other. And he said that the thing about um, the kind of ways people describe these experiences is that there's people talk about there being a nebulous feel or a thickness in the air, which is quite an interesting way of describing it. And he said it's almost like a sixth sense,
Mm-hmm.
um, but it's happening in like real time. And he said it's too empty an experience to be a hallucination, but too tangible to be a delusion. So it's
Yeah.
like in between
Yeah,
feeling, isn't it?
exactly. Yeah.
Which is
And
quite
actually,
weird.
this kind of sensation has been reported for ages, basically.
Yeah,
Uh,
forever,
In the
right?
past, explorers, adventurers, discovering new worlds and so on, they
Yeah,
had a similar situations in which they were feeling somebody there. And now
yeah,
it's referred sometimes as the third man factor. That's how they
exactly.
call it.
Third
And
man factor. Yeah,
like this guy was saying in the professor of psychology, Alderson-Day, it's not only limited to people in extreme situations.
right.
Because you would say, okay, I was in distress, my body, biology, chemistry started to kick in,
Yeah,
adrenaline, and that influenced the fact that you were having this kind of survival instinct or
yeah, yeah,
trigger something in you to be aware of that.
yeah,
It can be sometimes just happening without
yeah.
any
Well,
other thing.
I've I've got a feeling that he talks about people being in extreme situations, and for example, explorers or say mountain climbers or whatever.
Hmm.
Um, there's one fairly straightforward explanation, which is that oxygen depletion
Hmm.
is well known to cause odd kind of feelings and hallucinatory events and so on and so forth. But but there is another explanation that's proposed, which is called predictive processing. And
Hmm.
I quite like this one
Yeah.
because it chimes in with other things we've talked about on other uh, programs and research that I've read about, which is that basically our brain, being, the ultimate analog computer, basically the information that it's getting from our senses is
Hmm.
is incomplete, right? And that uh, it's very noisy.
Yeah.
It's all analog, right? It's noisy, and it's less than perfect, and that our brains or our mind, maybe we should say, is basically perceiving the world in a constant best guess scenario.
Hmm.
So basically, everything we're seeing, hearing, is an approximation of reality,
Hmm.
and that just and this same professor makes this reference to this phenomena where we, see uh, Jesus Christ on a slice of toast, or we see
Hmm.
a rabbit in a cloud, and it's our our mind's constant effort to identify patterns and make
Hmm.
sense of what we're perceiving, and that he suggests that predictive processing
Hmm.
may well account for, let us say, we're just in a situation where uh, we're not quite perceiving something correctly. Our mind will actually put forward an explanation for what it is
Yeah.
we're seeing, right?
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure I've had small examples of that kind of thing where I've looked at something from a distance and
Yeah.
thought it was a thing, and then when I get closer to it, it's actually something else.
Yeah. uh, Basically your mind starts to fill up the gaps
Yeah,
of
exactly.
information. What you cannot
Exactly.
really understand 100%, your mind, your brain starts to, okay, this could be like this. Or you hear, like in the image we're seeing now, you hear the noises behind and you
Yeah.
imagine all kind of
Yeah. Things
scenarios
going
and
on, right?
images coming to your head based on previous experiences,
Yeah.
basically.
Yeah.
Most of the times, because most of the times the images that you see in your head are
Mm.
based on things that you have experienced or seen.
Yeah. And it could be obviously in the modern age something you've seen in a video game or on TV or in a
For
movie or
sure. Yeah. Or you just went to the movies 2 weeks ago
exactly.
and you watched the
Yeah.
Gremlins rerun, and then you are like,
There's gremlins everywhere.
yes,
Gremlins under the bed.
under the bed. Yeah,
Anyway,
exactly.
so I think again, don't you think perhaps that in our modern world, so in earlier times before, shall we say, the Industrial Revolution and the emergence of obviously initially radio and then
Hmm.
television and so on. So before that period, obviously your brain was no different. It still sometimes had to fill in the gaps because you didn't have all the necessary information. But the source material that you had available was much smaller, right?
Yeah. Yeah,
And
exactly.
there might have been not many people had books, right? Or there was a period where not many people had books, and then when people had books, obviously, no doubt, images in books became food for the brain to
Yeah.
plug in images or whatever.
But if
So,
we talk about old times, basically you also were going through narrations from other people and experience from others, and
yeah,
those influences your imagination basically on how
and
to
I th-
perceive things.
and I think again because obviously religion was
Exactly.
much more important, shall we say, to society in those times, then it's hardly a surprise that a lot of written experiences in those times had a
Hmm.
very strong kind of spiritual and religious element to them.
Yeah.
You know,
This thing also of let's say feeling presences and things like this reminds me a passage from Carlos Castaneda and one of his books, or actually in several of his books, he talks about these, like perceiving energies or entities around you.
right?
And he has a very interesting thing that you should never, when you feel the presence of something or somebody like behind you, you should never look over your left shoulder.
Never,
You should always look over the right shoulder. And it's a very
because
interesting explanation because he says that, for example, the left side is always the gateway to the unknown, like the
is that
place where
my
you
left or
open
your left?
yourself to something that you cannot control,
Right?
and that is called the Nahual. And
Right.
instead, you should pivot and look through the right side,
Yeah.
because the right side is correlated to the known world, things that are already aligned. You know the intents,
Ah, right.
these kind of things.
Accepted. Blah blah.
Yeah, which he calls the tonal. So
Right.
that's a very interesting thing of when you feel like somebody is around you, to instead of looking through the left and turning around, should look and turn through the
Yeah.
right side.
I'm making a note of that.
So next time you feel something, you know,
Yeah.
through your right shoulder, not the
Makes
left.
right. That's good advice.
Yeah. And there's so many experiences or stories about people, for example, in hospitals.
Right. Yes.
I
We've all
think
read about them, right?
hospitals, it's like
Yeah.
a cumulus of stories of seeing things or feeling things. And I think many things have to do also with the fact that you're in a very stressful
Yeah.
situation,
Well,
actually.
it's a high stress environment, right?
Yes. Yeah. You see life and death
Yeah.
happening all the time there.
Yeah. Well, I think I mentioned to you earlier before we started recording that I do know I've never had an experience like this. So I've quite often mistaken things for something else,
Hmm.
but I've not had this felt presence thing. But um, somebody I know related to me a classic felt presence thing of sitting by a bedside in an ICU
Hmm.
and having the feeling that somebody just walked behind them,
Uh-huh. Yeah.
and that is just classic. I mean, a lot
Yeah.
of people seem to have this. Well, not a lot of
I
people.
have had personally the experience of the sleep paralysis. That for
I,
sure.
I think I have experienced sleep paralysis very briefly, but not
Yeah. Not constant, but I have had it for sure. Like can clearly recall having that situation happening.
well where you woke up and you couldn't move, or
Like it was like in between,
right?
between sleep, between awake, and that sensation that you just cannot
Yeah,
move and there's something there,
yeah,
like that pressure on you. Let's
yeah,
say
yeah.
I have
Yeah,
had that personally,
that is interesting.
and I know somebody another experience that in hospital again. That was in the last days, and at some point was seeing people over the beds of other patients actually.
Good
And the
grief.
creepy part was that those persons actually unfortunately died afterwards. So it was a very spooky story also
That
that
is
I had as well told was told some time ago. But
that is quite
hmm
something, right?
yeah,
But
well,
how are we doing on time, by the way?
oh, we're fine. I
Oh, we're
think
good, are we?
by now people are okay with. Well, if you think about it, we're approaching our 100 episode,
Right,
and people have seen our episodes or listened because we used to be only audio podcast.
right.
Uh, our first episodes were like 45 minutes, 1 hour or more.
God, yes,
So
I barely survived those myself, so I don't know what.
I don't know. I used to like that also as well. I don't
I
mind a longer format with more deep explanations or talk.
I know, but do people have the time? I mean, so many Instagram things to check and TikToks to watch, and
I know. I think that it's an answer for the audience to tell us if they like longer format or these shorter formats of around, I
yeah,
don't know,
yeah,
15, 20 minutes.
yeah.
So that would be interesting to know. And
I
would be
mean,
very interesting to know if you have stories about
oh,
feeling a presence,
we would
something
like
that
to hear
happened to you.
those.
That would be very good, very cool if you can share with us.
Yes, yes,
And
because
yeah,
as you mentioned, Rafa, we are rapidly approaching our 100th episode. Uh, I'm hoping we get some kind of award for that,
I don't
possibly
know. We
a
can make
campaign
something.
medal.
Yeah, we can make a wooden medal. And
Maybe we can, yes, maybe for the 100th episode we should make our own 100th episode medal.
yeah,
We,
yeah,
and we can
yeah.
wear them.
Uh huh.
Yeah, we'll see if
Exactly.
we can. Whose is the best one? You're the one with the. You're the one with the.
With a laser.
Yeah, you're the one with the laser cutter. So I've got a feeling you're going to win. Yeah,
Well, I think this is it for today's episode.
yeah.
Let us know what you think. And any final thoughts, Carl?
Well, I thought it was an interesting subject. I have heard about it before,
Hmm.
um, but it is. I can understand that if you experience it, you're not so interested in necessarily hearing a cold, rational explanation of what just happened,
Yeah.
because I'm sure it is very, very uh, startling to experience something like that.
Hmm.
But we like to dig into these things, and it's interesting.
Yes.
Cool.
So thank you for watching today or listening. And we'll see you in the next episode, which will be 99. And we're close to the
Oh
100.
my God. Okay, Rafa. Thanks.